So the topic for our panel tonight is mobility in the enterprise, and we have four people who know a lot about this here to talk about it and answer our questions. I'm going to ask a couple questions, and I'd like you all to ask your questions as well, so get ready with that. First, I'm going to read the names of the folks that are up here. You probably recognize them, and then ask them to introduce their company in about a minute or two. So on the end, we have Alan Snyder, CEO of Boxtone. Then you know Chris from App47, Terry Shao from Hook Mobile, and Richard Lepperch from Aegis Mobile. So in that order, Alan, can you just introduce yourself and talk a minute about Boxtone?
Sure. I'm Alan Snyder. I'm the CEO of Boxtone. And just to give you a quick feel, so Boxtone founded in 2005, so we've been selling mobility solutions.
Louder, please.
Louder. We've been selling mobility solutions in the enterprise for quite some time. We have now over 360 customers. We've got just over 1 million devices being managed using the Boxtone platform. So we have a very good understanding and view in the enterprise about who's using what are they using it for, how are they using it, and what are they doing. When you look at our solutions, we do full lifecycle mobility management. So that's everything from device management, how do I configure and deploy the devices, to support management, what happens when you have an issue and somebody calls in the service desk, how do you address it, and then operations management, how do I keep all the mobile infrastructure up and running from end to end. So that's really kind of where Boxtone plays. Most of our customers are global, global 2,000 customers. So it's going to be folks like a Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, folks like that across financial services, government, healthcare. And just to give you a feel, growing quite rapidly. We're growing over 80% year over year. We've hired 30 people so far this year, and we're still hiring. So I will, put that out there as we're hiring pretty much across the board for all roles. So if anyone's interested, please either see me or contact us, online.
That sounds great, Chris.
Chris Schroeder with App47. Show of hands who's heard of App47?
Hi, Terry Shao, CEO of Hook Mobile. We're a startup company in Tysons. What we do is we provide cloud services for mobile apps. And basically what we do is we provide phone numbers, we provide SMS, MMS capabilities. One of the problems with app adoption is you could, if you share anything, if you limit it to app, it basically limits your viral capabilities. So we have all the abilities to take you from app to non-app and help you convert the non-app users to app. And we have customers, which is the largest internet company in the world. Who here have heard of an open source called Twilio? Anybody heard of Twilio? So we're very similar. So I'll say we're the Twilio for the big boys. If you need a couple numbers, you want a few messages, you go to Twilio Sandbox. You want an enterprise solution, you come to Hook Mobile.
Hi, I'm Richard Lepperch with the Aegis Mobile. A little shameless promotion here at the beginning here. Today we announced we were one of the Inc. 505,000 members. We're at number 561 with a 585% growth since 2007. We have 45 employees up in Columbia, Maryland. The business started really on the carrier side of the business. We were and are still the approval authority for anybody who wants to sell digital content on the carrier network. That has morphed into helping them approve and monitor privacy issues and compliance issues for any applications that are on the network. We currently, for Verizon Wireless, as one of our customers, monitor and the Google App Store. I think Morgan mentioned earlier today they actually do not follow any of their community guidelines, and we are here to validate that's absolutely true. But that's changing rapidly because of all of the regulations and regulatory initiatives that are going on. We also recently released a mobile-specific content management platform focused on the web, buzzword compliant with HTML5, CSS, and it's in beta test in a couple of the major enterprises as we speak. So that's us.
All right. So Pete emailed in some questions from the emergency room. So I'll ask a few of those, and then I'm going to ask one, and then I'm going to come to the audience. So Chris, why don't I start with you, since you have background in enterprise software. How do you feel the mobility and the app and that whole ecosystem is changing the way the dominance of big software players in the enterprise software business, or is it?
I don't think that it is. What's changing is the experience and the distribution model. But the enterprise is still trying to achieve the same goals. They're still trying to be efficient. They're still trying to get the most out of their employees. So the enterprise's goals are all the same. They're just trying to make sure that's done in a secure way. So they're out still looking for software companies that can help them do that. And what you see is that the enterprise chooses to build it internally when they can't find that. And that happens enough times that software companies get formed around it, and then distribution models change, and then the enterprises start buying those distribution models. So I don't believe much has changed in the overall model. It's how we experience it has changed, and that's the disruption. But the overall models you're starting to see to kind of merge back into what we've experienced before.
So the model is the same. But Rich, do you want to add to this?
Sure. The model is the same, but it's still very much in the embryonic stages. There aren't a lot of the enterprises that have really thought this out. What we've seen so far is a lot of the enterprises just focusing on the external properties, mobile properties, without really looking at a strategy on how to take it through the entire enterprise, as the last presenter brought there. So I think the challenge really now is to get them to start thinking about the long term. A decade ago, as everything started moving to the web, and it's only a decade ago, people didn't think about their long-term strategies. They now have that experience and they ought to leverage that, but it's still sort of sitting in the corner of, hey, can you think about mobile for us while we do the rest of the properties?
Okay, so Alan, you've been seeing this for a while. Put on your wizard hat, think out a couple years, like we heard Chris think that the businesses are not. Is it going to be Oracle and SAP and those kind of companies that are still dominating, or is there an opportunity for somebody to rise out of mobile like Apple has and take some market share?
Well, that's a tall order to put on my wizard hat. So unfortunately I left it at home. What I'd say is I think you're going to see chaos for quite some time, and that is, I kind of sit somewhere in the middle of some of these answers, and that is, I think that fundamentals of business are not going to change, right? Businesses are trying to sell things to people. They want to make money. They want to distribute, get more effective and more efficient. What is changing is the way in which they do that, just as the internet made a big revolution in terms of how applications were delivered, how people access information, how you interacted with it. I think mobility is doing the exact same thing. I think it's doing it on a much larger scale, because you now get capabilities with the mobile internet that you didn't have before. You're untethered, you have geolocation, there's lots more tools and information available to make those applications much more rich, much more context aware, much better in terms of integrating with other applications you're using. As a result, I'm of the opinion that that is going to be transformational, very much the same way the internet was, and you had companies like Amazon and such that got in early and understood the importance of it, and went from, in essence, being an idea to being one of the major software players in the marketplace today because of that. So I think it's absolutely going to be transformational. I think it's interesting to see that some of the major software product companies out there, the top 10 software companies, have no mobile strategy to speak of at all. I think you'll look and see they will be the laggards in the future, and there will be other leaders that will lap them.
Sure, and I'm just going to add, there was an article, I think it was an editorial by Mark Andreessen in the Wall Street Journal the other day, and he observed that the biggest bookseller is Amazon, the biggest music company is Apple, the biggest video distributor is Netflix. So that's kind of disruption. You think that? Okay. So, question from the audience.
It's like a two-part question. It's all up for grabs. What industry groups are adopting your products and services, and what can you accelerate to grow your business?
I'll take a stab at it. It's mainly the retail people, the ones with the extensive e-commerce presence already, because they're recognizing that they're going to be cannibalized by their competition if you don't go there. I can give you all the stats you've already read on how people abandon the mobile web and the mobile apps if they're not working correctly. So you see a lot of the people who are the early adopters and big adopters of the retail e-commerce experience, starting to move forward with it. I have not seen a lot of it move towards the center of the enterprise, but I do see it from the customer-facing side of things.
Somebody want to add to that?
I'll go just from Boxton to answer the question. That is, we sell the Global 2000, so for us, our market segment cuts across to all industry verticals, whether it's government, whether it's healthcare, whether it's financial services. Really the main thing is that they consider mobility to be mission critical. They want it to operate it with the highest quality of service level to the end user at the lowest possible cost, and they want it to be secure. Pretty tall order for mobility across all the different platforms, all the different apps, and how dynamic the market is. So that's the big thing. To give you a feel of the market, though, if you look in the enterprise, and this is what we see, is there's about a 20% penetration rate right now, on average, in the enterprise, right? So if I've got a company that has 100,000 employees, I can pretty much guarantee you, on average, there's going to be 20% of those employees will be connected to enterprise resources via mobile device. Now that's grown over the last year from 15%, it's moved up to 20%. And that's on average, right? Some industries, financial services and legal, are actually significantly higher. Some industries, manufacturing, others are actually lower, but on average 20%. We think that's going to move from 20% penetration rate to 125 to 150% penetration rate because of multiple devices and other things over the course of the next 3 years. So when you look at that growth rate alone, that's a phenomenal amount of growth. Then you start to add in, most of the focus in the mobile space right now has been just how do I get the device out there? Right? It hasn't gone beyond that. Really, at the end of the day, the device is a means to an end. The end is how do I get data to the end user? And that's about application distribution. That's about what Act 47 and other folks are doing about how do I manage and secure and do the apps. So again, I look and say we're at the very, very beginning stages of the growth opportunity. It's enormous in terms of where you're going to see both count of user and complexity because of diversity of apps that are out there.